Let me just read you a little quote by none other than by Philip Zelikow, who is a member of a very special board called President's Foreign Intelligence Advisory Board. In a remark at the University of Virginia, he said the following: "Why would Iraq attack America or use nuclear weapons against us? I will tell you what I think the real threat is, and actually has been since 1990. It is the threat against Israel, and this is the threat that dare not speak its name. Because the Europeans don't care deeply about that threat, I will tell you frankly, and the American government doesn't want to lean too hard on its rhetorically because it's not a popular sell." George Galloway, Philip Zelikow is one of the most important American officials during that period, and he has a security clearance much higher than top security, it's called WARD. He's a member of a very select group headed by Brent Scowcroft. At the time, they were submitting their reports directly to the president, and they were privy to access all kind of intelligence, including raw intelligence. So when he says this was at least partly for the sake of Israel, does he talk from knowledge, or is he basically just say something that Raanan Gissin disagrees with?
Well, of course, Israel did attack Iraq. Some people appear to have forgotten that Israel flew all the way to Iraq to destroy Iraq's nuclear energy facilities at Iraq, long before Iraq had ever fired a single missile at Israel. So that's just factually wrong. And of course, it's not that Israel shapes the Middle East. It's that Israel shapes the United States of America. And anyone who followed the run-up to the war on Iraq, right from the drawing up of the project for the new American century, could see that Israel's strongest supporters in America were the strongest supporters of an attack and the destruction of Arab power in Iraq. Now, I'm not trying to change the hearts of any former advisor to General Sharon, assuming that such a thing exists. But what I want to say to your audience is that Iraq was an Arab nationalist secular power, where Islamist fundamentalism was in fact brutally repressed. Now Iraq is an Islamist fundamentalist country. In fact, 12 different countries with militias running around armed to the teeth, murdering each other, yes, today, but who knows tomorrow. The Islamic Republic of Iran has become fantastically more powerful as a result of the destruction of Iraq. And lastly, the world view of the obscurantist fanatics, bin Laden and the rest, is now fantastically more popular in the Muslim world. And when you tally all that up, throw in the 1 million dead Iraqis, throw in the 3 million exiles, throw in the people suffering, lack of electricity, poor nutrition standards for their children, lack of security in Iraq. People can't send their daughters to school or university for fear. And look at the streets of Iraq, patrolled by Islamist gunmen of one variety, one stripe or another. You have to say that if you're drawing up a balance sheet, then the red ink, the debit, is hugely greater than any good which could have come out of such a thing.
If that is the case, let's see if Raanan Gissin can bring something positive to this bleak picture. How about a new constitution? How about some vibrant media? How about several elections? Do these countervail, do these counterbalance what George Galloway just outlined? Are the Iraqis better off in the long run with the toppling of Saddam regime, Raanan Gissin?
Look, Iraq is not the only bleeding country in the Middle East. Most of the countries have internal disputes, are fighting each other. These are all a result of the primordial sin of the creation of the British Empire around between 1923 and 1925.
You seem to forget, Raanan Gissin, the British Empire also created Israel. This is the very cause celeb of the entire problem in the Middle East.
Well, they promised, they reneged on the promise later on, and then we had to do the rest of the job ourselves. But let's leave that. That's a different issue. We tend to forget what was the situation. It wasn't the result of the attack on the nuclear reactor in Osirak in 1981. Or Iraq was not secular. Iraq was predominantly controlled by Sunnis. Now there is this clash between Shiites and Sunnis. Now, but still, there is an opportunity today out of the bleeding Iraq to come up with a new constitution with democracy, which is trying to make its way in Iraq. So something good will come out of it, but it's going to take a long time. And Iraq, unfortunately, will continue to bleed like other countries in the Middle East. They're trying to pave their way into the future rather than go back to the glorious past that Galloway so romanticizes about.
Well, bleeding is the operative word here, isn't it? And it's very clear that Israel, especially the Sharonites, like the one you have on the television show today, that they want the Arabs to be bleeding, and preferably bleeding at each other's hands. They want the Muslims to be bleeding, preferably at each other's hands. They want to divide the Sunnis and the Shiites as much as they can. They want the Arabs to be fighting each other as much as they can, so that their little settler state, as they call it, which was invented in the building behind me, where the British Empire, on behalf of one people, promised a second people the land which belonged to a third people, and then went about creating it as facts on the ground. They want to continue to defend their little settler gangster state, which today stands in the opprobrium of the rest of the world, and their days are numbered. He can talk about the offensive in the United Nations, but the latest finding that Israel is indeed a gangster terrorist state which murders people on the high seas, which steals other countries' passports to murder Palestinian officials in Dubai. Its days are numbered. They might not be numbered in days or weeks or months or even years, but the idea that this settler state can forever keep the Arabs and the Muslims at each other's throat, keep one corrupt king or puppet president in his throne, on his chair forever, is a very, very sad mistake. And big change is coming to the Middle East, and it's not the change that the gangsters in the settler state of Israel want.